If you think about the whole industry only works because they're musicians. Yeah. We want to change the industry. They wanted to utilize a new technology to look a little bit more hip. Yeah, so it was pretty obvious that the artist was not getting anything, and there was the first request after we launched, can you take that out? I think
Yeah.
they just raised the price, yeah.
Yeah.
To pay more for the artist, sure.
They announced the price increase and a pay decrease at the same time to
Yeah.
artists. Welcome back to Unsigned Berlin. Today I sat down with Daud Zulfacar, social entrepreneur and founder of License Rocks, a music licensing Web3 based company. It got $1 million in seed funding and it was backed by the EU. We talk about what that project was designed to do and how the client side presented some unexpected challenges within the music industry. We also talk about his new project, Blessed, which provides Web3 ticketing solutions for events. It includes dynamic pricing, ticketing, auctions, and much, much more. And we'll get into all of that in just a second. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the episode. Maybe we can start with License Rocks and introduce the project. I know it's kind of it's an older project now and you're winding it down, but it would be interesting to hear about the things that didn't really work with it and why that is and what you're doing moving forward. So can you explain maybe what License Rocks is?
Yeah, sure. Like the thesis of License Rocks was that we were in the beginning just making fun of blockchain use cases. And we said making fun of things is easy. Let's think about something that makes sense. And then we came across like double spending. And that double spending or Bitcoin solved the way that we can use digital money because this solved the double spending problem. And then we said, okay, where did we else find that problem? And it was because we were coming from the software management space. It was when you would use software licenses. And so we said, maybe there's no solution for it, and we figured out there wasn't a solution. And it's even really weird in that space because software vendors know that companies are not compliant with their licenses, and they always do audits whenever their sales numbers are going down. So they have nice sales figures. They also work together with consultants. It's a really dodgy business, I would say. And bringing transparency into that was beautiful. We just figured out that it didn't work if you wouldn't work together with a software vendor, or you could utilize using used software and selling that. And that's what we did out of insolvencies, and we built a whole product for that. The problem was when we were finished with that product, then Corona kicked in. And because of Corona, the German government said that insolvencies or bankruptcies were set out, so we didn't have a market anymore.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so we had to rebuild our whole product, and there we went into the NFT space. And within the NFT space, we were figuring out if there is a licensing problem as well, or how can we utilize NFTs to be the digital twin of the license itself. Because then we can utilize all the properties that an NFT would bring us as the provenance that's immutable, that we can transfer a license, that we can set up like different license models, because else it's super difficult.
Yeah. And the original reason I reached out to you was because I saw it's associated with music licensing, which is a big topic for especially independent musicians, because if you're not independent, you can get rid of all of that brain space and just put it on the labels, which is great. So what was the decision behind focusing on music licensing versus licensing for literature, for example?
Well, I think if you look at the music landscape is also dominated by huge labels, and especially if you talk with musicians, it's always most of them are really keen on doing music. They don't want to think about marketing, financing, all that crap, especially accounting and stuff like that. Some of them do, but not all of them. And this is what the labels are doing. But I believe labels back in days, like when there was physical distribution, Yeah, it was a little bit more difficult to do all that stuff yourself as an artist, or to find specialists which would be a perfect fit to you.
Yeah.
Right now we are distributing in a digital way,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't need a label for that anymore. If you think about marketing, there's so many good marketing agencies, and if you're a musician yourself, you have your own vibes, your own voice. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you maybe don't want that marketing agency of the label.
Yeah.
You want to pick someone else. Yeah, you can't do that. And then the last part would be the financing and the marketing part. Yeah, and the financing part, you could even, in a crowd founded way, you could even sell your tokens in advance, or sell your future rights on an art piece and
Mm-hmm.
involve the fans. So I saw there a lot of opportunity, and I saw also the need from the musicians, because when we looked at Spotify, how that worked and
Mm-hmm.
how much they got out of it,
Yeah.
then I stated it can't be that so talented people are getting that less of a money. And if you think about, the whole industry only works because they're musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that, I didn't get it, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. We managed to have industries which are dominating and getting the major benefit out of something they're not even doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I thought that needs to be changed.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple different use cases. Um, which was the one that you were most focused on, and you thought at the beginning would be the one that clients would be most interested in?
In the beginning, we always thought it was you're buying a piece of a future revenue stream you would get out of streaming the music over Spotify or other streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, on the one hand, it's not that easy, and on the other hand, we know, because that's one of the root of the problems, that
Mm-hmm.
there's not so much money involved. Yeah, so
Yeah.
why is it that attractive? Yeah, it sounds attractive if you say to your
Mm-hmm.
fan you can buy something and you get a part of the future revenues, but if they are super small,
Yeah.
then it's more an idealistic thing. Yeah, and then it's all about education as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I still believe, if you look at the K-pop movement or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
if you really educate your fans, and if they get the gist why it's so important that artists are getting directly funded by them,
Yeah.
and that the relationship between an artist and a fan, that's like the hard currency a musicians has
Yeah.
at the moment. Because I always say, if I'm a hardcore fan of something, I don't, sorry for my wording, but I don't
Oh, you
give a
can say
shit
whatever.
about what kind of label they're under.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I care about the artist. And let's say that artist would move from a label to a label.
Mm-hmm.
Will the fans stick? Yes. Why is
Yeah.
it important then that the artist has like a real good relationship to the fans? It's super important, because like that, and with new technologies, they can directly sell stuff to them and get around the whole industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think every artist should realize.
Yeah. So the just to make sure I'm understanding definitely is that if you release a song, you would mint a series of NFTs is what License Rocks was providing, and then fans could buy that as sort of an investment, that as the song grows and brings in money from streaming, the idea would be that the fans get some of that money, sort of like buying shares of a company.
Yeah, that would be the ideal scenario, but to be super precise, like what License Rocks did, we
Mm-hmm.
were in the back. We
Right.
were providing the text, so we were not doing that. We were just talking to people from the music space
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out what would be the needs, and then we would provide the tech, and they would put their brand on top of it, because we were white label providers in the back.
Right.
Like that, we learned a lot, but for instance, one of the NFT marketplaces which got bought after I think 5 or 6 months, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have anything out of that. Yeah,
Right.
that was the downside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you were mostly talking with, I would guess, distribution services like DistroKid, or with artists, or
Oh, we talked with everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, we talked. We started with publishers.
Right.
Yeah, because we thought, okay, They have the rights there, the catalogs,
Makes
and we
sense.
thought that would be super easy.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that what we wanted to achieve and what that publishing company wanted to achieve was totally controversy. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because we want to change the industry. They wanted to utilize a new technology to look a little bit more hip. Yeah,
Right.
and we've figured that out that this was not the right turf. Then we talked in between always with artists, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just to get their gist because that's important for us.
Yeah.
And we also talk with different labels, yeah, and
Right.
also large labels, small labels, and we figured out pretty soon that we didn't have that much clue about music industry and that
Mm-hmm.
it's super complex. So we employed someone from the music industry just to get a better understanding, and we did like tons of talks and try to just get everything
Yeah.
because it's you can't try, or it would be weird if you try to optimize an industry that you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. What were some of the biggest um, surprises or challenges you came up with in that, in terms of you were discovering about the industry and then you're like, oh, I didn't kind of know that this system existed, um, and then you had to readjust? What are some
Uh,
examples maybe of that?
Okay, we didn't have to readjust
Mm-hmm.
because of that, but like for the first music NFT,
Mm-hmm.
we did like all the splits like on chain, yeah, because we
Mm-hmm.
want to show who's getting what,
Right.
and that was what I was always thought was like one of the major advantages.
Mm-hmm.
That was what no one of the music industry wanted except the artist.
Why?
Because you could see directly, like in the first music NFT, the artist was getting 5.5%, I think, at the end.
It's too visible how
Yeah,
they're screwing over
yeah,
people.
and we did even a pie chart, yeah, so it
Right.
was pretty obvious that
Yeah.
the artist was not getting anything, and there was the first request after we launched, can you take that out? We said, but if we take it out,
Yeah.
why are we doing that? And then we figured out for the first time we are doing it because it's sometimes nice for someone who's not working that much with technology
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh, we implemented something with blockchain. Yeah,
Right.
so it was just marketing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now that why is the project winding down? Is it because of that, where it's just people who, to me, when like, I didn't think of publishers, but when you said publishers, it's like, well, obviously they would be interested because they could make a lot of money off of this. What went wrong? Was it people that you thought, like publishers or labels that really should be interested but weren't because of optics, or what went wrong?
Well, this is just a thesis I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I'm not too sure if it's really the main reasoning. But with the people I talked with from the music industry, they have running contracts
Right.
with artists, and these contracts are always at least 3 years contracts, or they are based on how many albums get issued. Yes, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not that they are neat at the moment, and they have also enough capital. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they weren't they were just investing a little bit in a few startups, but just to get like all the knowledge out of that, and
Right.
else they were investing in layer ones
Mm-hmm.
because they knew something was coming.
Yeah.
And I also talked to a few high ranked guys, and they said, we're just looking, and if we find something that is interesting, then we might buy them
Mm-hmm.
or we rebuild what they did.
Right.
Yeah, they don't feel the need to change anything at the moment.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, and we tried everywhere. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
the problem is they always tell you it's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might do a little POC with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then everyone is celebrating because they have Sony, Universal, or
Yeah.
or the Warners of this world, but at the end, it's just like a little bit of money that doesn't hurt them,
Yeah.
where they gain a lot of knowledge out of it, and the startup is not taking off.
Right.
And there's also one other thing. I'm not too sure if it's if you think about NFTs and especially music NFTs, and if there's not just a right, like a streaming right attached to it, if it goes more in the direction of a collectible,
Yeah.
there was also something that kind of worked in the US, but it didn't work here.
What was it?
Well, if you just think about collectibles, like any kind of
Oh, okay.
NFT collectible, yeah? And I was always wondering why. And then I came across a statistic, and it says 25% of white males in the US have one hobby, and
Right.
that's collecting cards. Yeah,
Oh,
and if you
okay.
think about baseball cards or American football, and now take the same concept and make it digital.
Yeah.
It's an NFT.
Yeah.
So it's an easy sell there. Yeah, and now think about all the people you know here in Germany, and think about professional collectors you know.
I don't know any hobby collectors or anything.
See,
Like,
me neither.
yeah.
So we have a totally different culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a collecting culture. NFTs, we see those high prices there, and everything is working every single marketplace. And then
Yeah.
we come to Europe, and it doesn't work in that way. Why?
Yeah.
We have a different culture. We can't just take something that works in the States and apply that it works here.
Yeah.
It had to do way more with education,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and explaining why something scarce could be valuable and why
Yeah.
you could trade it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it just didn't work here.
It's interesting. Where do you see the future of music licensing going in maybe the more short-term 5-10 years?
Oh, I still believe decentralized technologies will play a crucial part because it
Mm-hmm.
just makes sense. If you think about the biggest problems that musicians have, it's about the recognition of their song.
Yeah.
Even if they get that less amount of streaming,
Mm-hmm.
there's still like tons of songs which are not getting discovered. Yeah,
Yeah.
that they were streamed or. Even if you think about public events, like do you know if your song was played there or
Yeah.
not? Yeah, and there must be mechanisms where you can think of a decentralized database, think about like a decentralized ID for musicians and a nice royalty smart contracts in the back.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could see a future where talented musicians are independent on the one hand and also can do tons of nice collaborations with people all over the world
Mm-hmm.
and other musicians, creating fantastic fusion music based on single bass lines someone is contributing.
Right.
But it doesn't work at the moment like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe we will see a future like that, and I'm really bullish about
I
it.
hope so.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Mm.
One of the interesting issues with ownership of songwriting rights and recording rights for music, which is just seems like a massive inefficiency in the way it all works, is, for example, I'm working right now with a Colombian artist, and her music's in Spanish, so it's not like the main market isn't here, but we still signed up to GEMA, which means if she gets radio play in Colombia, has to go from the radio, be registered with their Songwriters' Rights Association, which takes their cut. It goes through GEMA, which then takes their cut and then comes to her, which seems like a massive issue that a decentralized system would overcome, maybe, if there's enough organization behind it that it's coordinated.
Yeah. Maybe there needs to be a new digital like gamer, yeah, that would work on that because I think as I stated, one problem is that how can you meter or measure, yeah, and I know that a lot of these companies are really bad in it, and they know as well. Yeah, but they don't
'cause
tell
it's really
you
difficult.
because why should you pay them that?
Yeah,
But everyone is aware of that problem. Yeah, and if you think about, if you would have like a standard for all the music pieces, you would or you would have use your decentralized technologies as the global database that where everyone can see stuff. Then we still have the problem of maybe trade secrets. Not every artist, if they're like super popular, want to know or want the world to know how many streams they have, how much income
Right.
they have. Yeah, so that would be another issue. Yeah, But if you think about like all those ZK movement, all that privacy movement, I I truly believe we will see like a merge of these different technologies in a way that it's super easy for everyone to spin up their own blockchain and
Yeah.
come up like with use cases that even cover privacy. And once we're there, I think we will have like a beautiful landscape where if I want to have my rights, I can tell like, oh, what of my identity is getting revealed for whom, so
Yeah.
it benefits me. Yeah, and once we
hmm
get there, then I think we will have really strong systems where it will be really hard to get around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still all have to build. Yeah,
hmm
we are not there yet.
And it has to be approachable for artists as well, because signing up for anything that's blockchain oriented, it's gotten better in the last couple of years, but
Yes.
it's just so many levels of like, oh, I have to do this, oh, I have to sign up to this other account and then this other account, and like, then before I even do this, I want to research what a hardware wallet is versus like a
For
it's
for sure.
it's just so much work that I think that needs to improve before.
Yeah.
Um,
But there we are on a pretty good track. Like if we
mhm.
look at everything around account abstraction and what they are doing, I mean, we even had like I think even 2.5 or 3 years ago we implemented Magic Link as one of the first in Germany. So what it does, you sign up with a mail,
Mhm.
and in the back it creates a wallet for you.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's the first UX hurdle you always have to take for someone who knows nothing about decentralized technologies. Then the next one is you have to pay gas. Yeah,
Mhm.
explain someone who just signed up now if to do anything they have to pay with something they are not
Yeah.
aware of. Also doesn't work. Yeah, so
Mhm.
there's a concept of gas stations. You are paying for the fees, and since transaction fees are getting lower and lower, except sometimes on Ethereum. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
so if you implement those two things, it's almost like a seamless user experience for anyone who's coming from Web 2 and experience for the first time Web 3. So I
Right.
think we're already pretty good there, but it
Cool.
took us a while. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was like I think, like for instance, Biconomy, the team I know, they are working right now for 4 years just on that topic.
Right.
But that's also the beauty of blockchains, yeah, because there's so many teams all over the world which are
Mhm.
building, and since basically everything is open source, see it as Lego bricks you're putting together, and then you have your house of music one day,
Right.
yeah.
Just a thought from what you said before in terms of the transparency of the licensing and people maybe not being wanting to be so open about how many streams or whatever they have. It would actually be really great from the other side of people who are for labels or for people like me who I'm looking for artists all the time of like, oh, let's see how large this person is. It's great if they're small, but it'd be interesting to see like how engaged their fan base is and everything. If they're getting very few streams but are big in Asia, then likely their Spotify doesn't say that they're very popular because Spotify is the only streaming platform that has the monthly listeners number that's big because they know that Apple Music can't put it up because everyone would be like, why is it so small on Apple Music? Because they have no market share. So it'd be really great to see a sort of universal version of that implemented where you could actually get a gauge of people from different places and how big their audiences are in India, even though they don't use Spotify so much, or in the US where it's all on Spotify and they look so much bigger than other places.
Yeah. Yeah, the only problem is I met like a lot of people who are trying to build like a decentralized Spotify, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about you as a user,
Yeah.
uh, would you, if you want to enjoy music, would you navigate to 100 plus different sites to put together your
No.
music playlist, or would you go to that one site where you pay, I don't know, like 11 or 12 euros now? I think
Yeah.
they just raised the price, yeah,
Yeah.
to pay more for the artist, sure.
They announced the price increase and a pay decrease at the same time to
Yeah.
artists, which is terrible. Um, no, that's Spotify's whole business model is it's just so convenient that I could get all my music for free, but I don't want to go to YouTube and download all of it. And
But were you aware of that? People who signed with major labels. I think there was like in the UK they figured out that there's a different distribution. Like they received up to 6 times more than someone from an independent label, and
yeah, it's also this weird thing of Spotify doesn't have a rate per stream. Well, most streaming services don't, which makes sense because it would be a terrible business model and they would just collapse. But there's lots of weird things of independent artists typically getting paid less than bigger artists, which to some extent I understand from Spotify's perspective of people are using our platform mostly because they want to listen to Taylor Swift and Drake and not because they want to listen to, for example, my music. Mm-hmm. So I understand it. It still sucks for artists, but from a business perspective, I get why they do it. The discovery mode, I think, is the worst thing that Spotify's ever done, which is where you can choose to get your music shown to more people for a lower pay per stream, which seems kind of cool. It's like, oh, it's sort of like paying for Instagram ads or whatever, but then if everyone does it and it's not an auction system like they have for Instagram or Meta ads, then Spotify just takes a bigger chunk of the pie and everyone's shown the same amount, and then labels who have shares in Spotify make more money, and they're not sacrificing anything by turning on discovery mode, because it's like, well, the money will go to Spotify, which comes to us. Yeah. It's like this weird pulling up by your own bootstraps isn't the right term, but it's almost like that, where it's like self-perpetuating, them just making more money by offering a supposedly better deal to independent artists.
So someone told me, like, if you're on a musician's party, mm-hmm. and if you want to be really popular, what you need to on that party day, what you need to say is that you're a Spotify playlist curator.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, please, do you want to listen to my music? Yeah, which is also a maybe not a scam, but almost. So you're moving on to the new project, which is Blessed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Like in my life, I talked a lot with enterprises as well. Yeah, and I always figured out that they were trying to have different ideas what they can do with decentralized technologies that were not possible. So basically what they needed were always like customized blockchains. And I always told them doesn't work. And like someone on the protocol level, they don't care about your industry. They care about everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you come with an industry problem, you always had to do it like on the business logic side on top. Yeah. What are you building there? And I think when I'm a smoker. You saw that outside, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm in a Web3 hub where there's also Celestia, and they came up with the term of modular blockchains. So I smoked outside on the balcony with one of their core developers, and I asked him about how he sees the future, and he put out to me that he believes in roll-ups and application-centric roll-ups, because there you could have whatever you want to with low fees and a settlement on whatever blockchain you wanted. So you have security, but you have cheap transactions, and you have the few full customizations that I always heard that we would need. So when I heard that for the first time, I said, I think that's going to be the future, especially in the B2B space, because the only thing that is missing there is interoperability. Because if you have that, then it would be a beautiful system. Everyone could do whatever they want to, but it still could communicate with each other. And I saw that everyone is working on that. So it's just a matter of time until we have that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I said I have to deep dive into that. And then also he is an old musician. Yeah, right. and I told him about all the problems that I encountered up to now. Yeah, was a session like that. The only difference was we didn't record it. Yeah, and we had lunch. Yeah, but we kind of found out that there is so much to improve in that space that we said, let's think about something we could do within a hackathon. Yeah,
Right.
and the hackathon was 45 days, so it was not just 3 days.
Right.
So we said, okay, we can really build there something. And then we thought about any kind of event. Like imagine you want to go to an event, yeah, like you're really keen on that band, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get normally to a virtual queue where you can buy that ticket, and after 2 or 3 hours it says sold out.
Yep.
Yeah, and then because you really want to go there, you try to go to the secondary market, and then you see that the ticket that was costing 100 euros is all of a sudden 400 or 500
Yeah.
euros, yeah. And you kind of figure out that whole scalping is done by having a better infrastructure, or there are people who are professionally front running ticket sales by
Yeah.
using bots or whatever, and there are mechanics to prohibit it. But still, this is a huge business, like secondary tickets. And what does it to you as a fan? It gives you like a super bad experience.
Yeah.
And do you want, as an artist, to have your fans an experience like that? If the fans are your hard currency
Yeah.
of the future, I believe not. Then we looked at what ticketing does, and they even, or those ticket companies do, and they even own the venues, or not own the venues, but they pre-book the venues.
Yeah.
So they have the whole supply chain. You can't really get around them.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is the way how you receive tickets is super unfair. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we try to come up like with a way how it's fairer, and that's what we do is we just implement VRFs, so verified random functions. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so think of you know those traditional lotteries where you just pick a ball, yeah, and we are just creating a random number, and then we have an array of eligible users who left the minimal deposit of the ticket price,
Mm-hmm.
and then we shuffle in that area with that random number who's getting picked. So
Right.
it's fair and transparent. We're not picking our friends or
Mm-hmm.
someone who has more money. Then we have another phase where the user can trigger the VRF, so it's like a lucky number they are always generating, and the seller created target numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If they match, then you get a ticket, else not. And we even have there a FOMO or boost phase where you can have neighboring numbers that also count to your
Right.
target numbers, so it gets a little bit more exciting. And then we have two more phases where we have auctions, and in these auctions we have dynamic price discovery for the sellers. So that means if we have different rounds, in these we have different rounds in these auctions, and in each rounds we have a certain amount of tickets.
Mm-hmm.
If all the tickets are getting sold, then the price goes up in the next round. If
Mhm.
not all of the tickets are getting sold, then the price goes down. So the seller can come up with his first strike price. Then ideally we have the best price that the market accepts.
Yeah.
And then we have at the last phase, we have a leaderboard auction where you can see if you're in the top 50 or 5, whatever the seller is proposing.
Mm-hmm.
And like that, it gets a little bit more fun, because we also thought about what of the time when someone is waiting to purchase their ticket.
Right.
So we implemented quizzes, Twitter spaces, and stuff like that. So people can engage, but also, if you do it in a clever way, engage with whether the location, the country, or the band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or the topic of that event, because you can already onboard people. And an example would be like at a lot of Web3 events, you have asked me anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could collect questions like that, or you could collect questions for a panel. You could even give out merch
Mm-hmm.
if someone is doing something good, or prizes, and start engaging people. Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's also crucial. If an event is taking place in a few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out how you can engage in advance your audience.
Yeah. Is that also a way of making it possible to have an auction, which obviously has to happen over time? Like, it's difficult to have many people many people who are trying to buy tickets be on the website at the exact moment, so you can just like apply and then immediately get the number back and be like, oh, I got this for this price. Is the gamification sort of a way of making it like, oh, I'll sit down and I'll do this for 10 minutes, and then by the end the auction has gone through? Does that make sense?
Yeah. In the rounds, it depends how many. We have 2 auctions. Like in that first auction phase, we have different rounds, and the round can take 2 or 3 minutes. After 2 or 3 minutes, you always know who's the winning parties, and you see that. And the last phase is there. The whole phase, you have the option to place your bid and whether you're in that leaderboard or not. So it's a little bit different in the 2 phases. Maybe I didn't explain that right.
No, I understand. For the ticketing service, what does Web3 provide to it that couldn't be achieved with just sort of having a website that based on Web2 concepts?
Well, it's always like I like to describe it like that. Whenever anyone can manipulate the data and someone is getting a benefit out of it, it's for me already a Web3 use case. Yeah, and now you have to think about it. Where does it make sense to manipulate the data? Yeah, so that one party would benefit out of that. Yeah, and I would say if you have ticket sales, for instance, then there's one problem that you have on the secondary market for sure, that scalping problem, and that if you resell the tickets, neither the artist nor the organizer is getting anything out of it. Then if you talk about authentication, maybe if there would be a single database, it would be easier to have counterfeit tickets, But it could also work with a centralized solution, but if you think about provenance and that I can send you the ticket and I can see that the ticket was bought by someone but transferred to someone else, that might be valuable to me. And if I can add things in there as most of the times royalties, then it makes sense, because then the organizer and maybe the artist could benefit for it. Or you could even say, as an artist, you have that much money that you don't care, and if someone is doing it on the secondary market, because your tickets are getting sold on the secondary market, you're saying, then I want to promote a social cause. If I would be an artist, I would do that. And if I would be famous.
The Ticketmaster case that's currently going through some controversy is probably good for a lot of people, but especially for services like Blessed. Are you keeping up to date with that, and what are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I explained that they have too much power already, because like what's not even in there is, imagine they're pre-booking, or if you're familiar with the hotel industry, they're also pre-booking hotel rooms, So if you want to get into that hotel and everything is pre-booked by the big ones, there's no chance for you to also offer vacations in that hotel. Now think about venues. I would say that there are not so many nice venues on the world as hotels. If someone is pre-booking them, then we have a huge problem. Because if they have a almost monopoly on the ticketing side, and then even can have all the capital to pre-book all these venues, because they know they are going to sell them anyways, because
they control the selling.
They control everything. Then I think it's fair of a government to say that's too much control.
For sure.
And I think it's good that we have these court decisions right now out of the US that they're too big.
We've done about 40 minutes. I want to ask, I have a couple, away from the microphone, a couple disconnected questions that are not so much about what you're actually doing. I want to ask what you think of the semi-ongoing OpenAI drama around Sam Altman. I saw you recently retweeted something about him talking about a UBI equivalent that could be considered for universal compute, where people can have elements of compute for AI platforms. What are your thoughts on OpenAI as a company? Because to me, I'm not in the space at all. I keep up to date. I try to, but it's more just interest than anything. To me, it seems like they fired him over something they don't want to talk about, rehired, changed their whole thing so they're not so open, and then like still trying to keep this image of like, oh, we're a really good company. We're here to like help the people. Do you share that view? What do you think of the OpenAI as a company?
I didn't look too much into it ethos-wide, I would say. I believe that, we can have whatever we want to against it. It is there, and it will stay, and it will be massive. And there's one thing, either we deal with it and we implement it in our daily lives. Then we stay at where we are. Maybe we gain a little bit in the near future, but I think midterm everyone will use it. And it will also be in the back of our products. We won't even recognize it. We are still in the interface phase where we still have to put stuff in. I believe it's gonna be gone as well. But we just talked about a company that had too much power. Do they have too much power? Probably yes. Am I contributing to that power by being a pro user? Probably also yes. Do I care? Yes, but I don't care at the moment enough that I'm not using it. And for me, it's, if I wouldn't use it at the moment, I would be decoupled of the speed that others have in my space. So I need to use it.
What are some blockchain products that you use in your daily life?
I use wallets every single day, but out of need. I wouldn't like to use them. Then I use block explorers a lot, just to figure out if everything went right, and if I don't get something like what was going on there.
Can you explain what that does? I don't know about it at all.
Block it's explorers. Like there's something like Etherscan. And if you do a transaction, you get a transaction ID, then you can put in that transaction ID and you see exactly what happened with your transaction. Like who did it when, where did it go, how much fees did you pay. In case anything didn't work, you will see it there as well. So it's basically your everything that is public on the blockchain can be found through a block explorer.
Cool. Important.
It's super important, but it's, you only need to look at it if you need to figure out like what happened with the transaction. Normally you
there's no problems.
So normally there shouldn't be a problem. It's just because we're building, I also have to, we're not doing everything right always, and we're doing it also in an iterative way. So I always have to check, and since I'm responsible for our product, like whenever there's anything new deployed, I just check and look if it is in a way how I like it. So
And finally, do you have anything to say to someone who's maybe embarking on their first journey of entrepreneurship in the Web3 space?
Yes, I would definitely. I saw someone who I did the hackathon with yet. He just stated like it's so easy to get into that space. Most projects are open source, so you go to the GitHub, you check what they do, and most projects also have big ideas and not enough people. So all you have to do is contribute. And if you contribute, if you find a project that you contribute, then maybe you find articles, podcasts, and stuff like that, and you dive into that.
Yeah.
And then you reach out to those people, and you will see how beautiful that whole space is. Because if you found the right team, which is motivated, they will love people who contribute, who will understand what they really want to do. And the whole space is, because I came from a real competitive space, the whole space is so helpful.
Right.
Yeah, all you have to do is reach out. Yeah, and there will be a few assholes. Yeah, in every industry we have assholes. Yeah, but they're just a few. Yeah, and if you find one of these assholes, run. Yeah, because there's so many nice people in that space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much for coming. Do you have anything you want to promote before we finish?
No, I'm not chilling.
Okay, cool. Thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you, Daud, for coming. If you can leave a review, that helps us a lot. And if you can share to anyone you think might find it interesting. And yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.